and you kind of have like a, we'll show it here, but you have basically an alignment stick that you put on kind of getting the right plane. I feel like takeaway, like people are always trying to fix their downswing, but to me, again, not a swing guru like you, but usually the backswing is the reason the downswing is what it is. So, do you feel like most players are going inside, and that's why we're hitting the dreaded slice and too many fades?
Yeah, that's the case for a lot of players. Yes, I will say as I've coached more and more, I go after it less aggressively than I used to because I used to
Okay.
just like the look of it. But now it's gotten to the point where a player rolls it to the inside, but they manage it well to the top of backswing and it moves well in transition. I don't
Okay.
worry about it purely for aesthetics, but like you said, it is a very common kind of chain of events where a player will roll that club very inside. It'll get very flat on the way back. When you get overly flat on the way back, you can't go any flatter. You don't really have anywhere
Mm.
to go but up and over. So that is the one case where I will worry about it. And I love that video just because it gives you that alignment stick behind the ball, gives you some kind of guideline to kind of follow to make sure that club isn't ripping to the inside immediately. So that can be a good one to kind of checkpoint yourself to make sure you don't overdo it or underdo it.
Yeah, so this is another good way to use an alignment aid, right? It's like $5. And if you're not using these, so I'm just watching the video here. So you basically put, for those of you guys that aren't watching, again, check it out on YouTube. But if you're just doing the audio, you have the alignment rod directly, what is it, maybe a foot behind the ball, but in line with the ball. And then you're kind of looking at takeaway once the club is parallel to the ground.
Exactly. Yeah, looking at that takeaway up to parallel to the ground as far as where that club head is. So eventually that club head will kind of pass it, but it's all from that player's point of view. When you're looking down, you should see that club head following that alignment stick while keeping the hands inside. The one way that I would say you can cheat that one is if you sort of shove your hands away, but roll, that can get the club head
Mm,
working inside a little bit. So if you get
okay.
in here and you start shoving the hands away from the body, but we start to add a rolling move, it can make it look like that club is getting into a decent spot, but we've kind of disconnected the hands and rolled to get here. So I would just make sure we're keeping those hands low and inside as we do it.
Okay, so hands low and inside, and you want the club face to be online with that. That's what we're trying to shoot for. It's not the actual shaft. We're looking at the club face on in line with that alignment
Exactly.
stick.
Yep. You want to watch that club head follow that thing right down that
Okay.
line. Stick.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really good. I like this video a lot. I don't know how you film all these, by the way. How do you get the player's perspective? Did you have someone like over you doing it, or
Now
what?
that was me. A couple takes just with
Okay.
the left hand trying to do it one handed only.
I love it, man. You got to get crafty out there. Did you ever see that old Tiger video where he had like the essentially a GoPro of 99 like on his helmet or on his hat, and he was able to, like, you were seeing it from his point of view?
Yeah, I know. I need to get those meta glasses. I feel like that would
Oh
make life
yeah.
way easier.
That's a good write-off, right? Come on, save us
Yeah,
the suspense.
exactly.
So cool, man. Anything else with the takeaway that you feel like? I know it is, like you said. I think that was a really good way you described it, to a chain of events. It's like one thing leads to the next to the next. So anything else you see with the takeaway?
That's going to be the biggest. I would say the hands shoving away and or not hinging enough, both of which tend to get that club a little bit too far low into the inside. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's a good starting point.
Do you see a lot of players actually go too far outside?
Not many. I would say if I do see them go too far outside, it's from the hands kind of shoving the club to the outside.
Hmm.
Where you look at like a Matthew Wolf style where it's like very
Yeah.
hand and club out. I don't run into that nearly as much. Usually, if that club is getting outside, it's from those hands kind of shoving it out there.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Let's see. So I like kind of going through each part of it here. Next one we had was wrist hinge, obviously something I was working on you with. And I feel like this is one where there's a lot of, like, wrist trainers and hack motion. There's a lot of stuff out there to like try and get this. So what should the wrist do without having to get into the medical terms?
Yeah, so this will play along nicely with takeaway, where it's I think you will hear many different coaches have differing opinions as far as like should you turn first, then hinge the wrist, should you wrist
Hmm.
hinge first, then turn. Kind of like both that happen fairly close together. I think it's a little bit more comfortable to kind of feel like you hinge as you turn versus making it feel very timing based where you have to do one or the other first.
So you like
Um,
them together. Okay.
yeah, I think it's a little bit easier for players to understand. Where if you going back to that alignment stick drill, because a lot of players like to feel like a one piece takeaway, where they feel like the wrists don't do anything and they just turn the chest. If you do
Hmm.
that, the arms are typically going to work very low and around. So
Hmm.
the way I'll explain it to players is the golf swing is basically a combination of horizontal movements and vertical movements up and down. So if you get here and all you do is turn, that's very horizontal. Usually that club wants to wrap around us. So the
Mm,
wrist hinge acts as a vertical to kind of offset it and keep the club in front of us. So that wrist hinge is really what's keeping that club down that alignment stick from that last drill we were talking about. Um, and I know we were just talking about this a little bit in your lesson, and we've chatted a little bit before this. But I like to kind of think about the trail hand. So for a right-handed player, we're thinking about that right hand. For a lefty, you're thinking about the left hand.
hmm
And I like to think about that wrist just working up and back slightly. So for in here, I don't want this thumb going directly upwards because that's
hmm
going to typically result in this lead wrist wanting to cup a little bit. I like to think about that back thumbnail almost working up and back at a 45-degree angle, somewhere in through here. That's going to give you a nice little set to the wrist in this direction, but you're also working a little bit upwards to get that club working vertically. So it's going to keep lead wrist flat as that trail thumb goes up and back very slightly. I think that's the easiest way you can think about it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So what I was doing, and I'll if you're okay with me putting my video up there too,
Yeah.
I can kind of show that. But yeah, basically you had shown that I was getting too inside with it because I wasn't hinging the wrist enough, and then that was leading to some contact issues. So it's more. So that's what I was trying to feel like when I would go hit range after it. I was trying to go like not pushing it out like we talked about because obviously we don't want the club going too far, but it was more it feels like left hand down to me, kind of going towards that left foot, but then it's more. I'm glad you also clarified too that you're rotating your body while making the wrist motion. So, like you said, horizontal and vertical. That actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Good. Yeah, no, I love that kind of analogy there. But
hmm
yeah, no, like I don't have issues with thinking about the lead hand doing it and kind of pressing down. You just need to make sure you don't start kind of lunging the entire left
Yeah.
side down towards it. It's more so primarily in the wrist, not kind of entire body lunging down into that grip where that head starts diving down and forward.
So, what are some of the side effects if you're not making the right wrist hinge? Like, what are some like if you're cup too much or bow too much, or what are some shot shapes or contact issues you'll see?
Yep. So I would say a lot of this goes back to that inside takeaway to over the top downswing
hmm
pattern that we were talking about, where if you have no hinge, that club is typically going to want to wrap around us a little bit. So if I try to shorten this club up and not take anything out, if all I do is turn and don't have any wrist hinge, that club gets very low and back behind me. From here, I have to do something to get the club vertical. So what a lot of players will do if the wrists don't get involved is they will get here and let the elbows start to carry the club up to the top, and
Mm.
that's where you get a lot of elbow breakdown. And you'll see all kinds of things from there. You'll see elbows break down and club work very steep. You'll see club get inside, elbows break down, and then you'll see some players really try to reroute it and get it underneath where you can get a lot of two-way misses. And then if you're not hinging, it becomes a little bit more of a rolling move that can kind of lead to that same cascade of events where that club gets too flat and behind us.
There's always something in this game. Just
Always, always.
okay. So that actually, I got a lot of clarification myself on that, just because I feel like you do think is it just do I rotate first or is it hinge first? So it's good to know you think that they should be together. You said you don't have any wrist trainers or anything like that specifically that you like.
So I have not used Hack Motion personally, but I've heard great things about it.
Yeah, it's nifty.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Hack Motion, but I have not used it myself, so can't really attest to it. I personally like the Pro Sender quite a bit. It is great for your trail wrist, and it pretty much allows you to hinge up and back and fit your wrist into a mold, so it kind of takes the guesswork out of it.
Mm.
So that's
Does
going to
that
be
go
a
on
very
your lead wrist or does that go on the trail one? I can't
that's going
remember.
to be all
Oh,
trail
that's all
wrist.
trail.
So
Okay.
yeah, right wrist for a right-handed player, and that's a good one because if you start hinging a little, basically for those that are watching, it's kind of a mold that fits on back of the wrist. So you're
hmm
setting yourself into it. So if you get too vertical with that wrist hinge, you're going to kind of miss that mold and not fit your hand to it. So that's a great one.